What would you do if your body gave out in lion country and no one even knew you were there? Dr. Evelyn Moore, 54, a retired wildlife conservationist from Colorado, had spent over 30 years working in America's national parks. But instead of settling into quiet retirement, she chose one last mission, traveling deep into the African savanna to investigate reports of illegal lion traps. The sun blazed overhead, her boots dragged through dry grass, and her canteen was almost empty. With no radio signal and her strength fading fast, Evelyn collapsed beneath a lone acacia tree. She was utterly alone. Or so she thought. What happened next wasn't an attack. It was a silent encounter that would blur the line between predator and protector, and change everything she thought she knew about the wild. If you believe in second chances, wild instincts, and the unseen bonds between humans and animals, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. This story is just getting started. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. But just as the wild seemed ready to swallow her whole, something stirred. A deep, guttural growl rumbled through the silence, dragging Evelyn back from the edge of unconsciousness. Her eyelids fluttered. Her body was weak, but instincts older than reason forced her eyes open, and that's when she saw them. No more than 10 feet away stood a massive male lion, his amber eyes locked onto hers. His mane shimmered in the evening light like wildfire. Beside him, a lioness crouched low, her body coiled with tension, and just behind her, a cub peeked out, curious but cautious. Evelyn's breath caught. She wanted to run, but her body wouldn't move. She was completely defenseless. She braced herself for the inevitable, the strike, the claws, the pain, but none came. Instead, the lion took one step forward, then stopped, tilting his head slightly, as if studying her. He let out a low huff, not of aggression, but something else. The lioness relaxed, sitting beside her cub. They weren't circling her like prey. They were settling in, watching, waiting. A wave of confusion and awe swept over Evelyn. She was still alive, and for reasons she couldn't understand yet. These apex predators weren't her threat. They were her guardians. It hit her like a lightning flash, their eyes. She'd seen them before. Not those exact lions, but that look, that stare, not of dominance, not of curiosity, but recognition. And suddenly, her memory unlocked. It was nearly 20 years ago. Evelyn had just started her fieldwork in this very region. Young, idealistic, terrified but determined. One scorching afternoon she had heard it. A desperate, panicked cry echoing through the trees. A lion cub, no more than a few months old, had been caught in a crude wire snare. Its mother, massive, growling, frantic, paced nearby, helpless to free her baby. Evelyn could have walked away, most would have, but something inside her wouldn't let her. She had no weapon drawn, only steady hands and a whisper of trust. She spoke softly as she approached, her heart thundering in her chest. The lioness didn't attack. With trembling fingers, Evelyn sawed through the twisted wire, freeing the cub. It limped back to its mother who, after a tense moment, looked at Evelyn. Not with hate, but understanding. And now, under this acacia tree, years later, Evelyn couldn't ignore the possibility. The male lion standing before her, tall, powerful, and oddly calm, wasn't just any lion. He could be that cub, all grown up. A bond once forgotten had not been lost. It had waited, matured, and returned. Her hands shook, not from fear, but something deeper, something ancient. Could the wild remember kindness? And more importantly, could it repay it? Then came the sound that froze her blood. A chilling, high-pitched cackle echoed through the dusk. Hyenas. Evelyn's heart pounded as shadows crept along the edge of the clearing. A pair of them, thin, mangy, and hungry, poked their heads from the tall grass, their glowing eyes fixed on her weakened body. Normally, she would have reached for her sidearm, but it was buried somewhere in her pack, and even if it weren't, she didn't have the strength to lift it. She was utterly exposed, but she wasn't alone. Kumo, the lion, rose to his feet with slow, deliberate power. His shoulders rolled forward, his head lowered, and his golden eyes locked onto the intruders. The hyenas let out nervous yips, but when Kumo released a deep, guttural growl that seemed to shake the very earth, they knew. This ground was claimed. They vanished into the brush without another sound. Evelyn stared, breathless. She wasn't just being tolerated by this pride, she was being protected. The lioness shifted, positioning herself between Evelyn and the wind, her cub nestled at her side. The pride didn't move to leave. They were standing guard. She realized something profound. This wasn't coincidence. Whether it was memory, instinct, or something unexplainable, the wild had not forgotten her mercy. And now, as darkness settled over the savannah, it had given her shelter, not behind bars or glass, but right there in the open, among lions. And somehow, she felt safer than she ever had back home. At first light, they came with guns drawn and hearts pounding. Back at the ranger station, Evelyn's absence hadn't gone unnoticed. Hours had passed since her last check-in, too long in a place where survival hangs by a thread. A search party was formed at dawn, led by Lucas Grant, a longtime colleague and friend who knew Evelyn never missed a call unless something had gone very wrong. Armed with rifles and tracking dogs, they swept the dry savannah in silence, each footstep pressing into cracked earth beneath a rising sun. The heat was already building when a young ranger spotted something, human footprints, fresh, leading toward a cluster of trees. Then they froze. Just beyond the clearing, a pride of lions stood in full view. Lucas raised a fist to halt the team. His instincts screamed danger, but then something odd happened. The massive male lion, Kumo, lifted his head, glanced at them, then slowly turned toward the base of the acacia tree. His eyes lingered there, as if pointing the way. Lucas's heart stopped. He rushed forward, ignoring every survival rule he'd ever learned, and dropped to his knees beside Evelyn's still body. A pulse, weak but steady. "She's alive," he shouted. Relief broke through the tension like a wave. As the team prepared the stretcher, none of the lions moved. Not one showed aggression. They simply watched, silent and still, as if acknowledging a moment too sacred to disturb. And then, just before the team lifted Evelyn away, Kumo took one step forward. He didn't growl, he didn't threaten. He simply let out a soft, resonant huff, a farewell, or perhaps permission. She woke to the sound of an engine and the scent of dust and diesel. Evelyn blinked against the blinding morning light as the hum of tires rolled beneath her. The sky, blue and boundless, came into view through the open top of the rescue vehicle. Her throat felt like sandpaper. Her muscles ached like they'd been carved from stone. But she was alive. Leaning over her, Lucas gave a shaky smile. "You scared the hell out of us," he whispered. His voice cracked with something between relief and awe. Her lips parted. "The lions," she murmured. "They didn't hurt you," Lucas said, as if finishing her thought. "They protected you." Tears welled in her eyes, not from fear, but from something deeper: gratitude, disbelief, reverence. because in all her years studying predators, nothing had prepared her for this. She hadn't survived despite them. She had survived because of them. As the truck bounced over the dirt road, Evelyn tried to make sense of it all. Was it instinct? Memory? Could wild animals truly remember an act of mercy from decades past? Or was it something greater, something unspoken that bound all living things in moments of truth? One thing was certain. The rules she thought governed nature had shifted, and somewhere in the open wild, a lion named Kumo had watched over her, not as prey, not as a threat, but as an ally, and perhaps as a friend. Weeks later, under a sky brushed with gold, she saw him again. Evelyn stood alone at the edge of the savannah, the wind tugging gently at her khaki jacket. The scars of her ordeal had faded, but something inside her had shifted forever. And then, like a whisper from the past, there he was. Kumo. Perched atop a rocky rise, his mane danced in the breeze like a banner of fire. The same amber eyes stared down at her, calm, unwavering. He didn't roar, he didn't move. He simply watched, and in that silent gaze, she felt something ancient, older than language, deeper than logic. They had shared something no textbook could explain, no camera could capture. A moment of unspoken trust, born not of dominance but of recognition. Evelyn raised a hand, slow, steady, unsure if the gesture would mean anything. But Kumo blinked once, then turned. With quiet dignity, he disappeared into the tall grass, leaving nothing behind but paw prints and the ache of something sacred. She stood there long after he was gone, heart full. Her journey had begun with a mission to protect wildlife. But somehow, in the most unexpected way, it was the wild that had protected her. And that, she realized, was the true lesson. We don't always rescue animals. Sometimes, they rescue us. This story reminds us that life often reveals its deepest truths in moments of vulnerability. In a world that teaches us to fear the unknown, sometimes the very thing we fear becomes our protector. Acts of kindness, whether remembered by people or animals, have a way of returning to us when we need them most. For older adults who've spent years giving, helping, and nurturing, this tale is a quiet affirmation. The good we put into the world doesn't disappear. It waits, often silently, to come back when our strength runs low. Proof that compassion leaves a legacy that even the wild can remember.